foundation to be able to add a lot more data to influence how you're going to make your planning decisions. So I don't see a lot of closed loop marketing right now in different marketing departments, but that's not from not wanting to. It's because they've been dealing in spreadsheets for the last 4 decades.
Yeah.
So everything that I see with Intel, Thomson Reuters, and others as they migrate away from that old world is we got to get the financials done first in marketing, and then we can start to evolve on that. So there's a lot of just lift and shift kind of thinking as opposed to lift and transform. So
Yeah, I think that's well put, and this is definitely not a case where we have full closed loop marketing. Though the full plan was to do full closed loop marketing, which of course involves integrating Workfront and all of that. So how about ITF, Anthony, and then you can talk through any of the gaps you see at the end for what would come next on an implementation like this. So Anthony, if you could walk us through how dollars are assigned from the top and from the bottom, how they're requested, and then who is in charge of those dollars. I think that'd be a good start for us.
Okay. So the Intel. So just before I start, I actually agree with you, Jeff, about the fact that there's not closed loop because Workfront handles a lot of the campaigns. So the results actually come there, and we are not integrating that part right now. So this is a financial part, and what Intel did in phase 1 is basically you have a macro budget allocation that is like the total amounts. So as you can see here, the executive team goes in at the beginning of the year. They put in these numbers where it's like, I need the total. I need to see how much I'm going to spend for my headcount. I need to see how much I'm going to do for like marketing merch, which is what they normally call all marketing. And they want to see GSD other, which is anything else other than marketing. So they put in these large numbers for the macro budget allocation. And here, the planned is what they have allocated initially. Estimated is what is allocated from the plant, and the actual such there is what you're spending. So right now, spending is all zero. They have not done anything. But at any point of time, they put in this information. They break it up by their reporting cost center reporting unit. So it's called CCRU for them. So all the different locations, Americas, APJ, all of them, they get allocated a certain amount of money. So for marketing, there is a certain amount of money. For the headcount, there's a certain amount of money. And there's also for other GSD, there's a certain amount of money that they're allocating in a year. So everything is quarterly based. Once I allocate this amount into this, the next step is for the different budget owners, for the campaign owners to go there and request said money. So if they have as part of marketing, they're saying that it's a campaign that they're going to run. They're going to create a campaign. Beginning of the year, they're going to say that this is what that overarching campaign is supposed to be there for. And then they're going to allocate certain amount of money specifically for that particular part of that campaign. So they have multiple stages. So there's something called program, which is like a tier below, and there's a campaign. So you have a certain campaign. In that campaign, I'm going to do it for a certain reason. So unfortunately, the data is, they probably are still working on that, so it's not there. But they put in based on what their objectives are. This is what I want this campaign to do. And then they go ahead and then fill in whose audience, which country it's working for, all that. And once it's done, they say that, yeah, this is the amount of money that I have allocated. This is the amount of money that I'm going to spend for each of these different activities, whether it's for sponsorships, all that. And then it goes to an approval process. Once it's approved, that's the only time you can actually start making POs against it. Now, there are different types. As you can see here, there's something called campaign. There's something called discretionary non-outbound and discretionary outbound, and there's fixed costs. So these are the 4 types which are there as far as Intel is concerned. They recently underwent some changes with the naming structure, the taxonomy of how they want campaigns to align closely to Workfront. And that's why these are called in this particular way. I'm pretty much sure other companies might have different methods, but these are the 4 methods in which they allocate the macro budget for the year.
So Anthony, can we go through that one more time? So,
Yeah.
so if we start from the top, so we have our top level, all company-wide allocation, right? So that's potentially Brett or somebody coming in, putting in a top
Yes.
level budget allocation. And then we do it across spend categories. So for them, it's like, what are the categories we actually care about? These are like the real things where at the end of the year, they're deciding like, should we have spent so much on marketing merch? Should we have spent so much on putting branded televisions in Costco or something like that? On the categories, and then we have planned estimated actuals for all of these, and then if you scroll down, how do they allocate the, and then below budget category, we have all the items that go into there. So what are these items? So AMR marketing, consumer marketing, corporate brand, these are all rolling up. These all the categories?
Yeah. So these are the different. So this is what they called as cost center rollups. So the way that they break things up is like for different cost centers, they're allocating money. So for the Americas, they have AMR marketing. For APJ, they have APJ marketing. And this cost center is the one that's getting a certain amount allocated to them. And they have to spend within that amount. So in every quarter, this gets broken up. So they say that, okay, all of these are in thousands. So there's like 1,298,000. That's for marketing operations in this quarter. And then those campaigns that you make would get allocated when you select the one that it's getting allocated from. Then you say that, yeah, from marketing operations, I want 200,000 from in this particular quarter. So that's how it actually like adds up. So you break it down on a quarterly basis for all the cost centers which are there, and then once that is there, then you go in there and say that from that particular allocation that I've initially made, give me out of 1.298 million, give me 200,000. So in the next step, when you're making a campaign, you'd go in and choose the cost center which is there. So I'll just show. So here you're going to choose from where that money is going to come from.
Awesome. So campaign is rolling up to marketing category, correct?
Yeah. So it's not a direct hierarchy, but then it allocates that money from there.
Got it. And is that split out by region, or it looks like the categories are regionalized already?
Yeah, it looks like it's already regionalized. So
right.
This is a list that they had provided, and also these are the lists which are reporting to Brett. So they have a slightly different system where, in case of PRC marketing, that's not all of them report to Brett. So for GSD marketing, which is a marketing branch, they have the China and PRC marketing reporting to them. But for headcount, they don't. That's reporting to someone else. So this is mainly for the executive team, which involves Brett, and only those which are reporting to him. So if there's something that's not reporting to him, it's not going to show on this list.
Awesome.
And if I could do a couple call outs. So if you could go back to the campaign submit and proposals.
Yeah.
So for those that may not have worked on some of the marketing projects, there's going to be two possible methods for campaign origination. One is they start in Anaplan, like you're showing, Anthony, and fill out campaign name and start date, et cetera. But the other one is that the campaign will actually originate in Workfront. And using Workfront Fusion, typically, it'll bring the campaign name and start and end date and other factors from Workfront over to Anaplan. From a pure best practice perspective, I try to tell clients that they should start in Workfront for campaign origination. And that's just because Workfront has a lot of extra bells and whistles, features, functions that Anaplan does not, that make it a better place to originate a campaign. But if a client is structured, maybe like Intel is, where they kind of separate the marketing finance subject from the campaign origination, then you can do it this way. But the basic idea is this: people that are trying to figure out what campaigns to do, they ideate on that first, then eventually it gels, then they have to go ask the bank for money. So there's a whole step before you ask the bank for money. And if you have that front ended by Anaplan, it's kind of like the analogy I use is you're in market for a house and you're just the very first step that you do is go to the bank before you even know what kind of house, how many bedrooms, how much you can afford. So that's why Workfront's just a better best practice way. So I could see Intel in the future maybe taking this exact same dashboard and rather than the fields being manually entered by people, that it is actually porting data from Workfront and those fields are actually captured in Workfront.
Yeah.
And that's the way that they plan to. The Workfront side wasn't ready.
Mhm.
So then they decided to go with this. And in future, in phase 2, they're going to integrate Workfront to this. So you're exactly right. It all originates in Workfront, gets moved here, and then it works from here. The moment all that is like moved from there, then you can actually start planning for that, allocating money for that in Anaplan.
That's
Because
great.
Workfront is
yeah.
good for a lot of things, but Anaplan is good for like a lot of other things, and they're not. They don't really have that common subset that they can do each other's job really well.
And that's the key differentiator. That's it. That is what every single marketing performance management project needs to figure out is where is the dividing line between your system of record, so like where your invoices are being tracked, like where all of the little spend details at the project level are being tracked, like who is doing what, and where the overall budget is being tracked. And there's a good argument for the line being a lot of different places. For Aero marketing, campaigns were approved and assigned in Anaplan, and then the activities related to those campaigns, like the campaign tasks, all the duties, those were put into Workfront, where the actual campaign managers can carry them out. In this case, we did it this way. I could imagine you doing it a lot of different ways. It definitely seems like the best place to start it is Workfront, where you can have like tons of different items for building a full like campaign history of like why this campaign came to be, who's involved with it, and it's way easier to build that in Workfront presumably. And then it gets passed to the marketing side, but also like how do you design a campaign unless you know how much it's going to cost? In this case, I think that'd be an easy answer, because they don't know that campaigns are going to get approved until the budget is approved for it. And so for them, their objective is let's have everybody create lots of different campaigns and like half populate them so that we know generally what the price is to do everything. And then Anthony, if you could really quickly go to the scenario planning page. And then this is the thing that gets me excited and got them excited, which was, all right, we have all of our different campaigns. We have all these different categories. Now let's plan out at the campaign or the category level, which we're going to include for each scenario, and then potentially copy in like the ones we select to a new scenario. So for them, it's like, all right, we know how much they go shopping before they actually buy everything, and they make the determination what everything's going to cost, and then they decide how much they want to spend and where they want to allocate dollars, which I think is really neat. But that's like that's what you guys need to be thinking about on Publix and on Aero marketing and on any of these, is like where we want to put that line.
Yeah, and along those lines, there are two things that I think about in drawing the line. So the first one is, what level of information does the bank, aka Anaplan, need in order to make a better, essentially, underwriting decision to fund a campaign? So, for example, to your point, Kevin, the bank doesn't necessarily need to know all the tiny little deliverables and specific things that the creative teams and marketing are going to build. It needs to know how much money in general is going to be spent on this campaign or this tactic or this marketing activity, but it doesn't need to know how much was spent on actually creating this one digital ad versus this one white paper, et cetera. And then the second area that's helpful with the line is, where is reporting going to happen? So if reporting's happening downstream in something like Tableau, then the bank needs to provide part of its information into that equation. Workfront will provide its part, And all of that data stream, along with outcome data from the execution systems, once you launch a campaign, that's all going to end up converging in, you know, a data lake like Snowflake, and then eventually into a reporting tool like Tableau. So that's a very important thing to talk to the client about, is where do you see reporting happening? Is it going to be in Anaplan, or is Anaplan just providing one piece of the reporting puzzle?
I have a question. For making the decision to know, like, okay, we are going to fund this campaigns, don't they need also some kind of estimated ROI to guide the decision, or that's done separately, like afterwards?
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, Alejandro. They need an estimated what?
Return of investment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in a perfect world,
Right.
when you go to fund a campaign, you will be able to look at some data that shows this type of campaign on average is getting this type of return on investment right now. So like email campaigns generate a 2% return versus, you know, digital ads, et cetera. Right now, today, most marketers, they are not pulling in return on investment information at the point that they are seeking to approve a campaign. So the whole idea of closed loop marketing, that's something that they're trying to get to, but they need to get the migration of the whole budgeting process for marketing out of Excel into Anaplan first. And then from there, they can start to connect outcome data downstream. And then the question becomes, do they look at a Tableau report, for example, to look at the investment relative to outcome? Or do they port some of that information at an aggregate level back into Anaplan so that you can actually see that information right in the dashboard where you're looking to approve that type of campaign?
Okay.
Yeah, but they're all heading to where you just suggested, which is they want to use ROI type information to make a more intelligent plan decision, as opposed to, I guess I need to approve this spend decision in the absence of ROI information, you know?
And I think that's where Workfront also connects. I believe all the ROI, all that would be handled by Workfront. But probably how we connect it to Anaplan, we have to see in probably like phase 2 when they're doing it, how exactly we can get that information in here for them to see it in a usable way.
Yeah, and just to be clear, return on investment is not calculated by Anaplan or Workfront. Anaplan and Workfront are just providing budget details and all the people that have worked to get a task out the door, like in Workfront, downstream to other systems. So for example, outcome data in a B2B world will be provided by a CRM system like Salesforce, showing like lead to opportunity to closed won information. But you could also have engagement data, like how many people opened up an email campaign or clicked on a link in an email campaign and went to the web page and purchased a product or called a sales rep as a result. That data is all way downstream from Anaplan and Workfront. And companies have pretty robust data capturing mechanisms already. And they put that into big data lakes and they run analytics on it. The problem that they've got is that kind of outcome performance data is divorced from the budgeting data typically.
Yeah.
So by getting the budgeting data into Anaplan, they can now systematize connecting the dots between the financial part and the performance data part.
Okay. So as Kevin mentioned, right now, I think since they're working on it, that's the reason why we're not seeing too many data fields over here. But all the different campaigns, fixed costs, all of them, they can choose what they want for the scenarios, see the totals, see how much it is compared to the previous year, see whether it works for them. Once it's there, they choose it, and then it shows a list of what all proposals are included. And then we go ahead to, once it's approved, then we go ahead to creating POs for those. So they create the POs. Yeah, sorry.
Real quick. So this is the key thing for everybody here to understand. So if there's anybody who feels a little behind, this is the place to get caught up. This is this is the most powerful like point of leverage that any marketing team could have. They have their team go shop, come back with this is how much everything's going to cost, and then they do it in as granular a way that they can. Obviously, you can't do it at the activity level, the marketing activity, like we're going to a Safeway and we're going to be tabling. You go up from activity to like category or something like that. How do we want to allocate money to projects, and then how do we spread that over scenarios, and then obviously like it's hard to decide your combination at the granular level, but you want to be able to decide like what is the mix of our marketing dollars and how is that working for us. And so to easily put it in multiple scenarios and then to get the executive team to agree on what the priority is, that is a really, really, really powerful point of leverage for their marketing team to be able to go through, these are the things we want to shop for. And then Anthony, when you scroll down, this is everything it's going to cost. That's the variance to the prior year. These are all of the project descriptions. And to be able to present that in an easy way makes all of the marketing process go really easily.
And actually, you bring up, this is very powerful. So you bring up a very good point. Just for everyone's benefit, anyone confused by the term campaign? Because marketers are confused by the term campaign inside their own organizations. So I just want to spend a second on that. And I'll use Thomson Reuters as a good example. I just want to think of like an umbrella campaign term, like I am in marketing at Coca-Cola, and I have a national US campaign to push Coca-Cola Classic. That's my umbrella campaign. And then under that, I'm going to have a lot of marketing tactics or channels that I'm going to use. So I'm going to spend money on social media. That's one channel. That's one tactic. I am going to do a lot of field events like the Super Bowl. I'm going to have a lot of different tactics marketing channel tactics that I deploy. And then within each one of those tactics, I'm going to have a series of activities that I do. So if I'm doing field events, I'm in charge of that tactic. It's all about which venues I'm booking, how many people for each venue. If I'm doing social media, it's specifically Facebook versus Twitter versus, TikTok, et cetera, and what kind of ad formats I'm buying in each one of those. If it's paid search, it's which keywords am I going after inside of Google. So, and then that trickles down to marketing deliverables. So depending on the tactic and the marketing activity, I now know what type of content I need to create or what types of things I need to go try to buy. So if it's a field event and it's a suite at a stadium, maybe I need to go buy pizzas for the people that are going to attend. Point is, umbrella campaign, and then an umbrella campaign can be comprised of a lot of marketing channels or tactics. And then that generates a lot of different activities that need to get done by channel. And then there are a lot of specific deliverables that need to be created by marketing activity. So the analogy I use when I'm talking to clients is I use Netflix, and I say that a show like Bridgerton or Stranger Things, that is your overall campaign. And then the episodes how many episodes you're creating, that could be like the tactic, like it's a 13 episode show, it's a TV show versus a movie. And then the activities, let's say it's Bridgerton, it's 20 episodes per season. And then I have very specific deliverables for each episode. Like I need this many actors to have their hair done and have their makeup done, right? This many stages need to be completed. So it gives you like a framework to talk to clients about.
So Intel also uses same campaign and tactic. So there's a level 1, which is the umbrella that Jeff just mentioned, and inside that you choose and say, okay, it's for this region, it's for these audiences. You could have multiple level 2 within that the large umbrella, and that's what the tactics also involve. So once it's approved, once you select select everything, then you go ahead and then make POs against those. So then you find, the one that you need, the approved proposal, whatever has been approved, and then you can go request the. So this is a request for the PO. The actual PO sent from SAP SAP Ariba. So in phase 2, there would be communication between Anaplan and Ariba, and also the way back. So here the approval goes for that PO. They generate that PO in Ariba. It's done. It actually, like when the invoice is sent out, all that gets sent back to Anaplan, and Anaplan is actually able to like tally it out. That's why you're seeing those actuals. So there's a plan, there's an estimated, and there's an actuals, and the actuals come back from Ariba. That's not done in the present phase, but then in the next one, they'll be doing that. And then you have the different budget reviews, the approved proposal budget reviews. The reporting also shows the budget owner's report and the executive report. There's a headcount part, which is also there, which is a burden that we saw as burden initially, but it's that requires its own use case. This is a very limited version of the headcount happening over here. The main part is a marketing side, which we just walked through the different types of marketing campaigns. Any adjustment, if it's there, how we handle that, how we create the POs for any of the approved campaigns. Yeah. I'm not sure if I missed anything significant, but please let me know. I think I believe Marina is also here, so if I've missed something that's important, please let me know.
I would like to know more about POs. They are purchase orders, and
Yeah.
what are those like? Are those related to campaign actions?
Yes. So for each of those campaigns, when there's a level 1 or a level 2, they have a certain amount of budget that's allocated to them. So now within that budget, you need to create a PO for that. And then you're going to like send those PO out. Now, Anaplan directly does not send the PO. Anaplan handles the approval for the PO. And once it's approved, it gets sent to SAP Ariba. And that's where the actual PO gets generated. So right now it's a manual process, but then the idea is like in future, it's going to be handled by Anaplan sends the request. Once it's approved in Anaplan, it sends it to Ariba, and Ariba is able to understand that, yes, this has already been approved. But these are connected to the campaign proposals that are there, that are generated.
And can you talk a little bit about, is the PO creation process starting in Anaplan, or is the PO creation process started in SAP Ariba, and then Anaplan's just selecting from a list of POs that have already been created?
So the way it is, because there's no direct connection between Anaplan and Ariba, they're independent process. But the way it would work once phase 2 is also ready is, you would create the PO in Anaplan. You'd get the approval for that PO in Anaplan, and then it gets pushed to Ariba. And then it gets sent from Ariba. Once it's sent, that information or that PO number, all those information comes back to Anaplan, where it's saved, saying that because there could be difference between the approval process, maybe the amount is 10,000 now, and then by the time the actual PO gets sent, it's like 10,500. So there could be a difference between all of this. So that's why the Ariba is the actuals. So the data that comes back from Ariba is stored here for us to actually compare between actuals and what was estimated. So the process starts with us in Anaplan approving it, gets sent to Ariba. Ariba sends the actual PO, gives that information back to Anaplan. But right now it's all manual. So they do this in Anaplan. Once it's done over here, then they have to go do it separately in Ariba. And then later they import that information back into Anaplan.
All right, Anthony, we have 8 minutes left. Is there anything else you want to show? I'd like to leave a couple minutes for questions.
Yeah, the executive report, that's basically all that's left, I believe. So yeah, they get to see the report. They can see how much they have, the different plan versus actuals, what they're spending amounts each quarter for. Yeah. They did not have any reports with them, what they had in mind. So I'm assuming that as a user, they want those changes done, and it's all going to happen later in phase 2 or during support.
I did have a question, Anthony, on
Yeah.
the campaign origination. Did you guys find when you did the user stories with the different marketing teams that there was some difference or nuance with what each team needed on campaign origination? Because I've seen that before, where, for example, the paid media team, they don't do things at like a product level typically in a lot of companies. It's just they're buying media to let people know Intel exists. But then other teams like field marketing, they want to go all the way down to this event was specifically held for this particular product, or it might be for a grouping of products. So just kind of curious if there were some nuances there or competing interests across the marketing teams.
To be honest, there was a huge Intel rebuild that happened somewhere like mid of the project. So the user stories were very different from what it looks like at the end. They did almost a complete rebuild of the campaign process. They wanted to simplify it. So they all the paid media, all of them, they get put into different buckets. So these 4 which are here, the campaign, the discretionary non-outbound, discretionary outbound, and fixed costs, they were able to put everything in these 4 buckets, and then we rebuilt it fully with the new structure that they had.
Got it.
So user stories were very different. But you're right. At that point of time, the different teams, they had like different interests. So they would say that they would want it in a certain way. And then like some other team would be like, we do not want it in that way. So that did happen. Any other questions?
Is this live yet?
We have given it to them, and they're in the process of inputting the data, but I don't think it's gone to a phase that other users are using it. They have, I believe, 130 users. So I don't think it has gotten to that stage yet.
Yeah, so yeah, it's technically, we did go live, but she's inputting all of the budget data, like Anthony's saying, and then eventually roll out to all the rest of the users.
Okay. Have they signaled their referenceability at all at this stage?
No, definitely not. So for them, with the massive layoffs they've had recently and like the drawdown in stock price and all of that, the main stakeholder is gone. A lot of the original people are gone, so they're just trying to get everything into the system without causing panic among the people below them. But in a couple of months, she'll have everything into the system. Jessica and Medina are meeting with her on a regular basis. And so we'll be close to them until like middle of December, at which point we can decide if we want to reference them. But they'll definitely be open to it.
Yeah, great. It's awesome work.
I agree. All right, guys. Any other questions for Anthony? All right. Well, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. Anthony, thank you so much for the overview. Intel team, great work. And please let us know. We now have a handful of awesome use cases in marketing, and they're all very, very similar with similar pain points. So please let us know if you need anything.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
day.
doing this, guys. It was awesome.
Thank you.